Today is the last super hot day of this major heat wave here in the Willamette Valley, so this is an update on what's going to be happening over the next couple of days, including the much anticipated cool down. The National Weather Service watches and warning shows that the Willamette Valley, the Columbia Basin, lower sections of Central Oregon, the Washington Lowlands, north of Cowlitz County, and the southern Oregon Coast Range and Cascades are under an excessive heat warning until at least Wednesday at 11 p.m. Some areas are in this excessive heat warning until later. For the Willamette Valley, it is until Wednesday at 11 p.m. A heat advisory is also present in the Cascades until Thursday at 10 p.m. The heat warnings for the Coast Range on the northern Oregon coast has been discontinued. But for the coast proper, a dense fog advisory has been put in place as a marine layer is north from the southern Oregon coast. That is only in effect during the morning hours today. Now, the high temperatures that occurred yesterday in Eugene, it was 105 degrees, which I was a little surprised about, but the smoke did clear quicker than expected in the upper atmosphere. However, down at the surface, there was some smoke that made it all the way down, and as a result, air quality levels reached hazardous levels for at least a few hours of the day, and almost the entirety of the daylight hours was in unhealthy levels. That has improved since then. I believe they're down to unhealthy for sensitive groups at this time, but that's still more than it should be. And if you're working out tomorrow outside or spending significant amounts of time outside, please take it easier than you usually do. Now, for Portland and Hillsboro, it was 103 degrees yesterday, and that eclipsed a previous record set in 2008. Corvallis and Troutdale both hit 102 degrees, also eclipsing a record set in 2008. Salem hit 101 degrees, eclipsing a record set in 1933, and Redmond hit 105 degrees, eclipsing a previous record set in 2020. Now, the last daylight satellite image provided here from the University of Washington shows that the smoke is still very thin over the Portland metro area and is primarily in the upper atmosphere, though there is some mixing down to the surface levels, as Portland did briefly hit the unhealthy level when it comes to air quality. That smoke is thinning out, and I do expect that line to move southwards as we go throughout the day tomorrow, and actually more towards the east. I expect Central Oregon will get more smoke as we go into tomorrow and beyond, as the upper atmosphere winds start to shift to the east. Now, Salem southward is still in moderately thick upper level smoke, but it is not as thick as it was yesterday, and I believe that is the reason why high temperatures were higher than what I forecast for on yesterday's video. I do expect that smoke will thin out, but because you're closer to the fires, I think that smoke will take a few days to clear out completely. But as we saw today, that doesn't appear to have as much of an effect on the high temperatures as smoke has had previously. Plus, because it's thin enough, I don't think it'll have more than about 2 to 3 degree impact on the high temperature, and that high temperature impact will primarily be closest to the Cascade Range. Now, for areas closest to Eugene, there may be a few hours of the day tomorrow where air quality levels reach back into the unhealthy levels, maybe even very unhealthy, but I don't expect it to go back to hazardous tomorrow. Now, for the forecast notes, again, smoke overhead at the 10,000 foot level, primarily from Salem south. I don't expect it to increase. It'll decrease from north to south. The marine layer will persist upwards along the coast. So going back to the satellite imagery slides, that's what these clouds are down here. That has already pushed northwards since nightfall, and I'm expecting it to, at the bare minimum, reach the mouth of the Columbia River. Most likely, I expect it to reach to Grays Harbor. That will keep morning temperatures down at the coast for longer, and as a result, I expect that to enhance the microclimate areas after it starts by cooling it by an extra degree or 2 degrees, maybe even enhancing the winds by about 2 to 3 miles per hour. So not a big effect, but it may be noticeable to some. Now, the winds, I do expect the winds will be more from an onshore direction everywhere tomorrow, even close to the Cascades. I do expect it to remain pretty light, generally around 5 miles per hour, except in the microclimate areas like in Corvallis. After the microclimate kicked in, the winds were around 15 miles per hour. There, I will note for Corvallis that the Corvallis Airport, which is where the official observing site is for Corvallis, that is a little bit out of the way from the primary microclimate area, so the winds may not be the most accurate there, or if you're trying to look at what are the current winds in Corvallis. A lot of times I've noticed when this microclimate kicks in, it's generally 3 to 5 miles per hour or higher in the city proper than it is at the airport, and it's also about 2 degrees cooler in the city after it kicks in as a result. So moving on to the 7-day forecast. High temperature today, I'm expecting 101 degrees, not a daily record high temperature for the first time in what would be 4 days. I do expect one more daily record low temperature at 68 degrees. Thursday, I'm expecting 95 degrees. Low temperatures are getting far more reasonable. In fact, I lowered the low temperatures compared to yesterday's forecast, now forecasting upper 50s as low as consistently going into the weekend of next week, and also a possible or back to near 90 on Tuesday, but that's standard hot for this time of year rather than extreme heat like it is when we hit 102 or higher. Now on to Corvallis and the southern Willamette Valley. I do expect Corvallis will hit 100 degrees. I think other areas in the southern Willamette Valley will probably hit a couple of degrees higher. I'd probably say 102 for Lebanon and Salem. I'd say, depending on smoke, for Eugene, between 100 and 103. For Thursday, I expect that temperature to cool off. 91 degrees for Corvallis, a little bit hotter for other areas in the southern Willamette Valley. And then Friday, I think everywhere will cool off and the microclimate areas will die down a little bit, as that microclimate really only triggers during days where the high temperature is at least 90 degrees. So high temperatures will be in the mid 80s from Friday to the middle of next week, and low temperatures will generally be in the mid 50s. So tomorrow will be my final video on this heat wave. I will go a little bit more into depth on the records, including one, if this heat was unprecedented of all time, or if it was just August unprecedented, including heat durations. Otherwise, it will be an update on how the cool down is progressing. So I will talk to you all then. But please stay cool out there, stay safe, and take care.